Hello, this is the Development Success Series, where we interview experts in different disciplines that a startup would need to run the company very efficiently. And in today's call, I have Gunjan Sharman, and he is at a product leadership role at multiple enterprise companies. Can you maybe give us a little bit of your background on what kinds of things have you done so people have an idea on how you can help?
Sure. To begin with, I'm currently in a product leadership role at a large, I would say, media company. Before that, I was in a similar role at a well-known real estate tech company. And prior to that, I've had several roles in product management at a variety of different companies across media, publishing, and a fair bit of work around advertising, ad tech, and hold a US patent in search and personalization.
What is product management to you?
It's a good question. Product management is in equal parts an art and a science of figuring out three big questions. What problem are we solving? Why is this problem worth solving? Who are we solving this problem for? How do you know that you've successfully solved that problem? So the entirety of product management as a discipline centers around finding meaningful answers to these four questions. Is there a need in the market? Is there an aspiration or a pain point that is experienced by a sufficiently large number of people that makes this problem worth solving? Is it a sufficiently important problem that somebody would pay for the usage of the product you're creating? You want to validate that, right? That's what product management is to me. If it's a problem that is experienced by large numbers of people and it is sufficiently important to them, good chance they're going to pay for it. Consider if you are working within the existing behavior models, behavior paradigms, or if you're trying to get people to develop a new habit or develop a new way of doing things. And in an ideal world, we would not shy away from getting people to adopt a new behavior. The trouble is, it's pretty difficult to get people to change their ways. That is often an uphill battle. Can it be done? Yes, but it just takes a lot longer and makes the overall process pretty tricky.
What are some ways they should go about validating that idea?
I've seen this done a few different ways. At a very basic level, it's anecdotal. I might go speak with a few friends. I might talk to family. I might spend some time doing a fair bit of reading to understand, am I heading in the right direction? A slightly more structured way to do it would be to send out surveys, recruit people, either incentivize them, but essentially give them a set of structured questions that they should be answering. A different way still is to even come up with the product that you think you're going to create to solve the problem you think you are addressing, and create wireframes, or we often call it stick figure diagrams, conceptual ideas, and then run those past groups of folks. So you're essentially running usability, your user research study.
You validate the idea, there is probably a fit, and the next thing is pricing model, right?
Pricing is an interesting topic because you can only price something to what people are willing to pay for it. Something I own or something I have to offer is worth X, but you might say, no, I'm not willing to pay more than Y. So you've got to start with that basic assumption that no matter what price point you assign or you come up with, somebody's going to potentially disagree or even dispute that. That said, there's a handful of different pricing models you can come up with. There is the classic cost plus model. If it costs you X dollars to make something and that cost is fixed and predictable, you may very well say, all right, I'm going to add Y% to my costs and make that available. You may pay per license fee for it, for whatever that service is or whatever that product is. You may very well say, look, I don't care so much about the number of people who are using it, but I care about the volume of data you're processing through my service or through my product. You may say it's a 30-day free trial, and after that it is X dollars a month or Y dollars a year. So it is a subscription per month, per week, per quarter. It's pretty common that as well. Another example of a freemium model might be, we'll give you some basic features or basic solutions for free, but it won't necessarily solve all the complexities of the problems at hand, or it won't necessarily get you all the way to meeting your aspirations. So at a certain level, we restrict access to the free tier, and the rest of the solution or the rest of the features, the benefits, are available to you only at a premium or paid tier. Or folks will say economies of scale or wholesale price. And of course, wholesale, I think, is taking that another level. You buy a pallet of something, it's a big shipping container or a big pallet, and I can give you bulk pricing. There's a variety of different pricing models. How you develop them is where there's a fair bit of, I would say, heuristics that comes into play. So in one of my roles at a real estate tech company, we were trying to price a certain ad product that we were building on. And there were a variety of factors we took into account to make sure that the price was palatable to customers in different regions. The idea was that our customers lived in different cities or different states. So advertising in New York City is probably, almost surely, more expensive than advertising, let's say, in a smaller city like Virginia Beach. How do you account for that? We've got to take a few heuristics into account. That, let's say, there's more people living in one city versus the other. Let's say that maybe there is seasonality to the market. Maybe there's greater volume of customers looking to do business in the spring and summer months versus fewer volume of customers looking to do business in fall and winter. We take into account other factors. Let's say the median real estate price of a single bedroom home. What is the price differential for roughly equivalent homes in one part of the country versus a different part of the country? And you add up a handful of those factors, combine them into a heuristic that makes sense. Then you do a sanity check with your sales folks. And he might say, yeah, that sounds about right. Or, no, this is too low. Or, mate, I can't sell at this price. Nobody will buy. Let's get a bit more realistic. Let's soften the price points. Maybe let's offer a discount. Hopefully that was useful to you.
Okay, so that's a good. I guess that's a good starting point. And basically, try to use some heuristic, figure out what price model makes sense, test it, and then if it works, great. If it doesn't, then take it back to the drawing board.
Revise. Yeah. Hopefully your heuristic is meaningful enough that you don't have to go and start from scratch again. But that happens from time to time.
So you validated your idea, you have a pricing strategy.
Sure.
The next big thing would be creating the roadmap for your company. And what features should you do first?
Your roadmap should be dictated by the first 2 or 3 questions. What problem am I solving? Let's sort of explore that for a second. You may be solving a fairly large and complex problem, right? Mm-hmm. Break that down into its individual pieces. Figure out which of those pieces are most important or deliver the most value to your customer. Then figure out which of those pieces or which of those individual problems need to be addressed, say, urgently, either because they're a real pain point or because there is competition in the market. And use some of those heuristics between what delivers the most value to your customer, what's most complex and hard for you to pull off, where the internal dependencies might be, what, if any, external factors you might have, to then go, well, normally I would do A, B, C, but I know that my competitor is launching a similar product which provides the benefit C as well. So maybe I do C first and then go after A, because if I launch C first, I have the first mover advantage and I can go, say, get my first set of customers and lock them in. Maybe I should say, let me solve problem C first and then develop loyalty with my customers if I'm delivering enough value so that they stay with me rather than flitting off to the next competitor who comes out on the market. That bit is somewhat more relevant, and this is where the startup versus enterprise bit might come in. It's more relevant to what class of problems you're solving and what class of customers you're addressing. We all know, by and large, that consumers are more fluid with their loyalty,
Yes.
right? I liked Facebook a few years ago, then I switched to Instagram as a way to keep in touch with friends, and maybe now I use WhatsApp, and maybe some of my friends are on TikTok or Snapchat. Consumer preferences evolve quicker than enterprise preferences. So if you're in an enterprise world where your customers are enterprise customers, you may be well served by addressing or sequencing your roadmap so that you're launching features to address important problems while also earning the loyalty of your customers, getting out there first and keeping those customers. So you have to understand the context in which you're operating, the risks you're taking, the value you're delivering, and develop a sense for whether you are able to drive loyalty with your customers if you sequence a certain way, or maybe it's better to wait, take your time, and go out with a fully baked product. Only you are going to know that as you grapple with your individual situation, the external and internal factors. But those are the few heuristics to consider.
Okay. Do you have any stories product management really failed, where if they did the proper way, they wouldn't have lost all this money?
Let's see. I mean, there's a few. I'm trying to think about. There's a few years ago, almost half a decade ago at this point, maybe longer. One of the media companies I was working at had this desire to reduce the amount of time it would take to close an enterprise sale. They identified the right challenges, that there were too many items for the sales team to sell, and too much data being repeatedly entered over and over, simplifying the flow, shortening the amount of time it took for you to input all the customer data, and so on and so forth. But the project hit trouble for a couple of different reasons. I think there was general hesitation from the sales folks themselves because they weren't sure how their bonuses would be impacted. They were not incentivized to spend their time experimenting with something. They're incentivized to close sales. They're incentivized to keep their customer. So it's one of those, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. If your key customer, which is the sales team, is reticent to use the product you're coming up with, well, you're not going to get very far with it, are you?
No.
And eventually, there was a couple other sort of issues with it in terms of incentives not being aligned and all that. But I want to say, I did the math. I think all said and done, we burned through something around $25 million worth of engineering time, only to eventually shelve the whole thing.
Oh boy.
And I went into such detail because if we had sort of thought this through a little bit, we would have probably approached it a little differently. Maybe you would have slow rolled that by saying, okay, where's the bleeding coming from? It's coming from accounts being given far too many discounts. Maybe we start by addressing that. See, product management isn't just building products. Like we said, go back to what problem are we solving? Why are we solving? Who are we solving it for? In this case, what problem are we solving? Well, we're bleeding money.
Mhm.
Who are we solving it for? For ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And why is it a problem worth solving? Well, crud, we're bleeding money, and if we keep doing this, we're not going to last very long. But on the flip side, also, what problem are we solving? We're solving the problem of it takes forever to onboard a customer. Who are we solving this for? For the sales team. Why is it worth solving? Because, hey, if you can free up their time and they can go after more customers, guess what? They might win more customers. They can stop the bleeding. And maybe that chart, instead of looking like this, can start to look more like this over time. The trouble is that the first problem doesn't necessarily, to solve, there's different solutions for each of those things.
Yes.
You want to first figure out where the bulk of the bleeding lies, where the greatest opportunity lies. Is it worth solving the first problem? That is, we want to stop the bleeding, so we want to prevent discounts. Or is it worth solving the second problem? Figure out what problem you want to solve and then get early buy-in from your customers. Who are you solving it for, right? Are they willing to pay for it? Are they bought in, essentially?
So taking it step by step, slower, and then instead of a full rollout, and earning to $25 million.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a good idea. It was good rationale at the surface, but I don't know how much diligence was done in checking in with the sales team to say, look, if we can stop offering so many discounts, we might actually just be able to minimize some of that bleeding we're seeing. Are you on board? How do we do this? And that was likely going to be a culture shift first. That was likely going to be an incentive alignment exercise first. That is product management. Surprisingly, it's not all about software. It's about finding the right problems and solving them the right way. Sometimes the solution is as simple as, here's a big red button, press the button, and you're golden, done. And in this case, that would have been it. Getting stakeholders on board and realigning incentives and taking it step by step. And maybe saying, yeah, look, salespeople are happy where they are. They don't really care that it takes them X number of minutes and they can save Y number of minutes in solving in onboarding a client. They're just happy. They're happy as they can be right now. Let's just not ruffle. That's not an important problem worth solving. And I think that's where, if I could, thinking back, that's what comes to my mind.
For more information on how to put technology to work in your business, please subscribe to this channel.